Hey anime fans, welcome to our channel Anime Rewind. In today's video, we're going to recap a 2015 anime movie named The Boy and the Beast, where a young orphan boy living on the streets of Shibuya stumbles upon a fantastic world of beasts. So, without wasting any more time, let's get to the video. Shortly after the film opens, we are introduced to Ren, the boy that makes up half of the movie's title. The child's mother was recently killed in a car accident, and the child's father is absent from the picture as a result of a contentious divorce and custody battle. The child is 9 years old. Ren decides to run away from home when he learns that he will have to live with stern and distant relatives from his mother's side of the family. He does this to prove to himself that he is capable of surviving on his own than for any legitimate concerns he may have regarding the suitability of his would-be caretakers. Because Ren is still a child, it should come as no surprise that he lacks the physical prowess necessary to live independently. After a short period of time spent hiding out in the seedy back alleys of Tokyo, Ren comes face to face with Kumatetsu, a humanoid bear with a stern demeanor and a massive katana strapped to his back. Kumatetsu is the first person Ren fights alongside in the story. Ren is recruited by the master swordsman to serve as his apprentice after following Kumatetsu through a portal to the parallel world of Jutengai. This marks the beginning of the main action of the film. Ren, also known as Kyuta in Jutengai, is going to have a difficult time adjusting to life in his new surroundings. Kumatetsu's homeworld appears to be on the technological level of Earth in the 18th century, with a few anachronistic creature comforts like electric lights and running water thrown in. As you might expect, this is going to be a challenge for Ren. In Jutengai, he goes by the name Kyuta. The young boy's early progress in swordsmanship is extremely slow due to his stubborn insistence that he doesn't need any help, in addition to the lack of mental fortitude that is natural for a child of his age. This combination of factors contributes to the boy's poor performance. The fact that the beast isn't exactly the most effective educator, on the other hand, means that the boy cannot be completely held responsible for what happened. We find out later that Kumatetsu is an orphan himself, and unlike his rival, the charismatic and honorable boar Ayozen, Kumatetsu has never taken on an apprentice before Ren. Ren is the first student that Kumatetsu has ever trained. But because Kumatetsu never had the luxury of parents who could be strong for him, he has been forced to figure out everything about life entirely by himself, and the results of his efforts have been extremely mixed. It's true that he's a capable fighter, but it turns out that he can't even verbalize to Ren how to hold a sword in the correct manner. As one of Kumatetsu's few friends, the monkey Tatara points out, because Kumatetsu did not have anyone to listen to him while he was growing up, he does not have any kind of natural talent for directing other people. Ren comes to the realization that maybe he has not learned everything there is to know in the world before reaching his 10th birthday. As a result of this realization, Ren develops a grudging respect for his hulking master. In the meantime, Kumatetsu is beginning to come to terms with the idea that his upcoming battle with Ayozen may be one of those fights that he simply cannot win without an ally by his side, regardless of how powerful he may have become on his own. This is something that he is beginning to realize. When it comes to the visuals, Hosoda has a thing for anthropomorphic characters. He used many of them as avatars for the cast of Summer Wars in that anime's in-film online world, and he was able to give even more screen time to such designs in Wolf Children. However, in Jutengai, the director is finally given a reason to go all out, and he takes advantage of this by populating the world scenes with a wide variety of fantastic animal-inspired creatures. Some of these creatures are based off of boars, seals, rabbits, and oxen. The artwork of Jutengai, both the backgrounds and the characters, is rendered in colors that are surprisingly flat for Japanese animation. However, this serves to give the world's fabric and stonework a warm, sun-bleached look, which is a very appealing aesthetic. The setting also lends itself to far more fight sequences than Summer Wars or Wolf Children. And while Hosoda may not be famous for his action choreography, he does a fine job here. Even though the setting lends itself to far more fight sequences, the musculous designs of the Jutengai beasts enable them to pack much more visual force into their punches and sword strikes than the stereotypical anime wives. And the liberal use of wide shots make it easy to follow the spacing and flow of the combat. There is also some good physical comedy, which can be seen in the stretched facial expressions that Kumatetsu makes while he is taking his lumps on the ring, as well as the heated yet good-natured arguing that Ren and his master engage in over the course of their years living together. The movie takes a leisurely detour so that Ren can start hopping back and forth between Yutengai and Shibuya via a method that is never really explained, and when the contest finally does occur, its conclusion feels rushed. The fight between Kumatetsu and Ayuzen is approaching, but before it happens, the movie takes a leisurely detour. It is highly unlikely that anyone in the audience who has been paying even a little bit of attention will be surprised by a plot twist that occurs late in the game, and the conflict that it sets up feels a little unnecessary. And then there is a Moby Dick symbolism, which doesn't really add anything to the conversation that the movie hasn't already had in its own words, which are much more eloquent. Still, The Boy and the Beast succeeds in covering the ground that it wants to cover thematically, despite the fact that it ends up being somewhat awkwardly redundant in its pursuit of a higher stakes climax than the central characters and their relationships with one another call for. However, the film achieves its greatest emotional impact in the context of its more intimate and private scenes. When Ren is reacquainted with his biological father through a fortuitous meeting, it raises the questions of how much a man needs to do for a child in order for that man to be considered a parent, as well as at what point that man earns the right to be called a parent, even if that was not his intention. The most recent work by Hosoda also raises the question of whether or not there is any value in the sincere but ultimately fruitless desire to have been able to accomplish more than one did in the past. The Boy and the Beast wants, more than anything else, to demonstrate the respective values of being strong for oneself, relying on those who love one, and being strong for one's loved ones. None of them are regarded as being unequivocally superior to others. Soon after Ren's arrival in Yutengai, Tatara criticizes the boy without the slightest hint of gentleness for his lack of dedication to his training, and the film even tries to show the potential downsides of doing too good of a job of protecting others from all of life's unpleasant trials and tribulations. It appears that Hosoda is suggesting that we cannot become strong without first overcoming at least some of those challenges on our own through our own efforts, but that our strength will only have any real meaning when we use it to help give others a fighting chance, and when we, in turn, are brave enough to trust that others will lend their strength to us. When Ren and Kumatetsu figure out how to pull off that balancing act, that is the moment they become ready to move on to more meaningful existences than the ones they have been leading up to that point in time. Being able to do all three is absolutely critical in carving out a fulfilling life for yourself and those you hold dear. And the moment they figure out how to do all three at the same time is the moment they become ready to move on. That's all for this video. Hope you have enjoyed watching this video. So, who's your favorite character in the movie? Let me know in the comments section down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so that you'll never miss any updates.